Hello and welcome to the No Easy Way Out podcast. My name is Tony Nash, and we are coming to you, as always, from the Armory in beautiful downtown Owasso, Michigan, home to my company, AZ Business Solutions, where we help grow your brand from A to Z. Our guest today is Chuck Dodge, a.k.a. Mr. Enthusiasm. Chuck, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tony. Glad to be here.
So, Chuck, tell us what's going on in your world these days.
Well, just earlier, we were shooting some video for my business, it's called Double Win Enterprises, and we're putting it together, and AZ is helping me do the promotion of it.
Well, we're glad to be a part of that. We're glad to be helping you, and we are helping put together some additions to your website, some promotional videos, some social media help and different things. So stay tuned for a lot of information about Chuck Dodge and Double Win Enterprises. But why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what it is that you do?
All right. Well, I'm an inspirational speaker, and one of the things that's really important to me is enthusiasm. And I am Mr. Enthusiasm when I speak. That's my brand. I claimed it, and it doesn't mean that other people can't be enthusiastic and say they are. But just let me just share with you what enthusiasm is. It's from two Greek words, the Greek words en, theos, which means the spirit within or the God within. And it's the last four letters that really, really make a difference, IASM. And that stands for I am sold myself. So when you're sold on what you're doing and you connect up with your spirit, oh my goodness, you're unstoppable.
Oh, very good. Well, listen, as you can tell already by just listening to Mr. Dodge here, that he is an enthusiastic person. Every time I've been around him, the enthusiasm just kind of pours out of you. But tell us a little bit about the nickname, Mr. Enthusiasm. Where did that originate? I mean, I think I have an idea, but tell us a little bit about how you came up with the nickname.
Well, it really came from other people, but primarily it was the way that I was showing up in other people's lives and inspiring them and saying, hey, you can do it. If there's some setbacks in their life, I say, hey, look, see it differently. And it was the energy, the enthusiasm, if you will, that I had during those interactions. And then people would say, well, you're pretty enthusiastic. And then it just stuck with me, and I claimed it.
Kind of stuck with you from there, right?
Exactly.
Well, I think it's a good nickname. I think it's a fitting nickname. Yeah. So you said the term inspirational speaker.
Yes.
Now, I think a lot of people have heard the term motivational speaker. And I think it's probably a similar thing, but tell our audience, what is an inspirational speaker?
All right. Well, let's define what the two words mean, inspiration and motivation. Motivation is internal, and it means to move in a certain way. And then everybody's motivated to do what they are going to do. In other words, no one can really motivate another person. They can force people to do things, and they can coerce them, and they can threaten them. But ultimately, the person's going to motivate themselves. Inspirational, on the other hand, there's two meanings to it. It means in spirit, and I mentioned that, enthusiasm, or infusing into the mind. In other words, this conversation here on this podcast will be inspiring or inspirational because I can infuse into the mind information to people. And that's the difference. And they can use that information from inspiration to motivate themselves.
Very interesting. So I never really heard it described like that, the contrast in the two, but it really is true. I mean, nobody motivates me to do anything. They use the term self-motivated, and really probably most motivation is by self. There are certainly different things that can inspire us, but really the motivation comes from within. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of what you're talking about. Absolutely. There. So what was it? Kind of tell us what led up. I know you went to college for business, but what ultimately led you to the point where you said, I want to be an inspirational speaker?
It certainly was life experiences. In 1980, I became single through that event called a divorce. And from 81 to 91, I had over 30 jobs, lived in 17 different places.
Did you say 30 jobs?
I said 30. Yes, I did.
Holy cow, 10 years. That's impressive. There should be some sort of a record there.
Well, and then 4 or 5 relationships. So it was out of my own life experience and what wasn't working that allowed me to develop this philosophy. And I'm reading and studying, but I wasn't really assimilating and using all the information. But I was on that path to do that. And so that's a little bit of my story. And then in the 90s, I started doing some community ed programs and focused on helping people promote themselves and inspiring them, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so fast forward today. Yeah. Now, who do you typically speak to when someone hires you? what kind of groups or individuals do you usually get asked to come speak for?
Well, that's a good question, Tony. I'm going to go with a Wayne Dyer quote. If two rats in a sewer said, "Hey, we need to be inspired," I'm there. But that's just a little bit of funniness. But I love to speak in churches, youth groups, adults, associations, in schools. I'm an all-purpose type of speaker because anybody can use inspiration.
Enthusiasm is kind of a universal topic. Inspiration, sure. Everybody needs it a little bit, right?
Yes.
Even the most inspired people need a little more. So you speak to companies and
staff
businesses
meetings,
and
yes.
staff meetings. Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. So that brings us to today.
Yes.
Whenever I ask Chuck Dodge, how are you doing today? He always says it's the greatest day of his life. Literally, just about every time I've asked him that. He never says, I'm okay or I'm just fine. He's always answering with enthusiasm, which I love. When I used to run hotels, I actually had a rule that when a guest asked you how you were today, or when I asked you, or if anyone in the building asked you how are you doing today, you were not allowed to use the word okay. Because to me, I'm like, if you're just okay, that doesn't inspire anything. We wanted our guests to feel like our employees were happy to be there. So I know to you, today is the most important day of your life. So tell us why today is so important.
Okay, I certainly will, but I want to go back to that greeting. When someone says, how are you? You go, I'm fine, I'm good, or I'm okay. That doesn't excite the body at all. That gets nothing going.
Right.
And so one of the things, find new words. Say, I'm fantastic, I'm fabulous. I love what Tigger says, I'm splendiferous. But I learned through the law of attraction studying in that it's always the best day ever. It's the best day ever because it's the only one we have. We want to compare it to something else. But think about it. Right now we're here. It's the power of now, and we're going to have now, and the nows are going to be wases, and the wases are going to be going to bees. And if we have good nows and we have good wases, we'll have good going to bees. But if we have bad nows, we'll have bad wases and we'll have bad going to bees. So the only time to change a bad now to a good now is now. And that's what we're going. We got to teach people to be now, be here now, and to feel good. Right. Doesn't matter what's going on.
Right.
We've taught ourselves to be just addicted to our circumstances, and that the circumstances have the power. So we've got to transcend that and always make this the best day ever because it's all we have right now.
That's excellent. I mean, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I think that's so applicable in the world we live in today. I don't know if you're familiar with the term FOMO. Have you heard this term?
Not really. I don't. Share with me what it means.
So FOMO is kind of this new thing that everyone talks about. It stands for fear of missing out, FOMO. And it's something that doctors are now saying is actually a clinical disorder that people that are heavily engaged in social media may get. Of course, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, what you're seeing as you scroll through your feed is a highlight reel. You're seeing everybody's vacation. You're seeing everybody's night out where they went out to a great restaurant or they went out and did some activity. You're seeing the new outfit that they just bought. You're seeing the new car that they just got. You're seeing their new relationship that they're in. And you sit there just having a normal day in your mind, and you have this fear that you're missing out on life, that your life is not as great as everybody else's because, wow, I'm not going on vacation and I'm not dating anybody new, and I'm not driving a new car. And of course, everyone's only just showing you snippets of their life. They're not showing you that, yeah, they have bad days too, or they have struggles or trials or whatever. And so a lot of young people, or really anyone that's heavily engaged in social media, they get this FOMO, it's called. And it's causing all kinds of depression and anxiety, especially with young people. So now that you kind of know what it is, tell me what you think about that.
Well, you know what? I'm glad I'm missing out on some stuff because there's some stuff I don't want. And if you know what you want in your life, you're going towards that. So you've got your wants, the don't wants are over here. So whoever's doing this, they just need to take a look at what's in their world. Right. And we talked a little bit about gratitude. Be where you're at. Be in your own life. It's enough just to live your life as opposed to playing follow the leader and going into someone else's life. But that's, earlier we were talking about living life by default. FOMO is a default setting.
Right.
And we need to come back in for design and say, wait a minute, God created me as a unique individual. So let me go find my stuff.
Right, my own thing.
Yeah, we don't miss out.
Yeah, people are no longer happy with their own path. They don't live in the moment. And I would say,
Yeah.
if you're out there today and you're struggling with this FOMO, if this is a real thing, I would say then get off social media. Or if that's something you struggle with, then you don't have to scroll through Facebook. There's no law that's requiring you to get on Instagram. All those are some fun things to have. I have both on my apps. Obviously, at our company, we manage people's Facebook and their Instagram and all their social media for them. So there are some valuable tools that can be used with social media. But I think if people would just be committed to live in the moment, and like you said, gratitude. I think gratitude is such a key thing, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. But people just are not thankful for what they have. I was kind of taught from a young age, count your blessings. There's an old song that we sang in the church, count your blessings, name them one by one. And when I used to teach young people, I would give them this task every now and then to go home that week and start a list and just start writing down everything you're thankful for. I mean, start with the smallest things. Like, I'm thankful that I had a bed to sleep in. I'm thankful that I have a roof over my head. I think that I had a fridge with some food in it. I think I have shoes. And you just start listing every possible thing that you could be thankful for. And I said, when you're all done with that list and you can't possibly think of anything else to be thankful for, now make another list to show all the things that you're not thankful for. And just about every single time, once they got done with that list, there was really nothing else they could think of.
Okay, well, Tony, there's something in addition to that.
Okay.
I've learned to be thankful for everything. In the 1 Thessalonians 5:18, it said, "In everything give thanks." Now, you enumerated a lot of the good things, but even if we're going through issues and problems, let's give thanks for those as well, because that's there to teach us so that we can use that as contrast to move over here, to take a step in the right direction. Right. So it's in everything give thanks. Now, I remember when I became single through that event called the divorce in 1980, I started reading the Bible, and I studied the way, because it was the easiest one to understand.
Sure.
And I come across that verse, and I'm going through a divorce, and I'm supposed to give thanks for it. I had no clue what it meant. Now I know. It's everything matters. And when you can get to that point, wow, your life has, it really has deeper meaning. I want to share something with you. My evolution, Tony, is gone through 4 stages. When I was younger, much younger, I used to, if something happened, I'd say, how could you do that to me? Blame. Right. Second stage is, something happened, someone said, hey, I did it for you. Oh, I get a lesson. Third stage, I learned in 2006 from Joe Vitale of the movie The Secret. He said, I'm here to tell you that everything comes from you, the larger mind, the subconscious mind. Okay, now I'm taking more ownership. But the part that really iced it for me was stage 4 in the law of attraction. And out of that, Esther Hicks said, we invite it all in. Right. So if I know I invite it all in, okay, what caused me to want that? Anyway, so now that is really total freedom, because whatever happens, it's mine.
Liberating.
It is.
It's a mindset.
Yeah,
it's a mindset.
It is.
And I know there are a lot of people listening to this right now, and they just think, you don't know what I'm going through. It's easy for you to say, I don't have anything to be enthusiastic about. I don't have anything to be thankful for. My life is bad. My life is terrible. I just got the worst news ever. I've just lost my job. I've just lost a loved one. I've just gone through some real things. I mean, there are certainly some real things that happen in people's lives. But what do you think are the key ingredients to real enthusiasm?
Well, part of it is to understand and know that there is a way out. I remember I heard Robert Schuller say one time, he was the possibility thinker. He said, just when you think you've thought of all of the alternatives, remember one thing, you haven't. There's always another thought. There's always something you can do. And one of the things that a lot of people don't do when they need help, they don't ask. It's biblical. Ask, and you'll get your answer. So I understand being desperate. In the past, when I've been there. But it seems as if you say, God, please help me, just ask for help from your higher power or however you see that, you will get the help. But ask and be an open vessel for the answer.
Sure. Well, I've heard you talk about this when referring to enthusiasm. You talked about this GED concept that you've come up with. So tell our audience a little bit about when it comes to the context of being thankful or really of being enthusiastic. Tell them this GED principle that you have.
All right. So it's GED is they're the letters for gratitude, elimination, and desires. And each would be a list. And I learned this from Catherine Ponder in the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. So let's just begin with gratitude. And Tony mentioned it.
It's a big one.
Oh, it probably is the premier one because gratitude is what you have. You can always find something to be grateful for, always and in all ways. The E in there is elimination. So those are the things that are showing up that we really don't want. So we want to put that on a list so that we're not going to focus on that list because we want to get rid of it, but we want to identify some of the things that we want to get rid of. And for me, I'll just share with you, doing this podcast and the videos earlier, I wanted to get rid of some disorganization in my business to create what we get to the D, which is the desires. I want a business, speaking business, to where I can help more people and help the world change a little bit, heal a little bit, and make it better and make it more enthusiastic. So the GED, gratitude, elimination, and your desires list.
Okay. I think those are universally excellent principles. I know one of my big things is gratitude. It's one of the things I tell my kids all the time. We really do have a lot to be grateful for, but statistically, most people just are not.
Yeah.
They're not enthusiastic. Even when I started my company, there were more people that were pessimistic about the idea than were optimistic about the idea, and very few that were enthusiastic about the idea. Even the optimistic ones weren't necessarily enthusiastic about it. They were in my corner and supporting me, but wanted to give me all the reasons why it was going to be difficult. And it has been, but I'm blessed. I'm thankful for it. But why do you think so many people just don't have enthusiasm?
Well, part of it is they're still operating on information that they've been fed through the years, and we really need to add to I'll call it our database of information. Reading books and listening to inspiring music or watching YouTube videos where we can get an idea to flip it, because people have been taught and they let themselves continue to be that way. And so they just need to hear from me. That's all. We can inspire them and help them see it differently, because what we want is just aha experiences.
Right.
God, I've never thought about it that way. That's what we want more of. And what we want to do
change
is
of mind.
Absolutely.
Thinking.
So here's what we want to do. I was talked to you earlier, Tony, about watching Oprah yesterday, and Dr. Eva Eger. She was in the Nazi concentration camps in 1944. She's now 91. Wrote a book about it last year at age 90.
Story, yeah.
Yes, and she said when you're talking to people, don't react to them, but respond to them and get them to talk to you. And I thought, how profound is that? Yeah. So when they're talking to you, then you can you can speak to their listening. Too many times we're talking to people and they don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. But anybody can awaken. Right. Anybody. Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that talks about being in the concentration camp of your mind.
Absolutely, yes.
About being trapped in your own thoughts and being your own worst enemy. And I think a lot of people are recently... I've actually spoken to a lot of people about this idea of success. Since I started my podcast, it's been a topic with friends and family, and really trying to determine, what does success mean? When you look at somebody and say, that's a successful person, well, what does that even mean? I think success is defined in so many different ways. For me, there's a lot of people that would look at my business and say, oh, that's not a successful company. It's still young. It's less than 5 years old, just a couple of employees, still, dealing with the day-to-day, cash flow issues and growth and all of that stuff. And certainly I wouldn't say our company has arrived by any means, but in my life, I've determined that success is I get to do what I love to do every day. I have the freedom of my schedule to take time off to be with my kids, to be with my family.
All six of them.
All six of those kids, yeah. Recently been able to spend some time with them just while they're on summer break, and I get paid to do that. And, I'm not the wealthiest man alive, and I don't drive the nicest car, and I don't have the biggest house.
but I have enough and I'm grateful. So to me, I've reached a level of success. Now, if I finished my course, no, I'm still on the path, but I feel like I've had a measure of success, and certainly as it comes to my business, I'm on the path that I want to be on to success. But what does success mean to Chuck Dodge?
Okay, let me respond to that success piece. I read it again. I do a lot of reading, and in the '80s, they had these little books they were on the counters. They were selling. It was by Robert Anthony, and it was Think, and then it was Think Again, and there was a quote in there that said, "When you think about it, success is all you've ever had." And I thought, wow. So, and we were talking earlier about success and failure. Here's what we do. We do something, we get a result. Then we put a label on it. We call it, if it's what we want, we call it success. If it's what we didn't want, we call it failure. Sure. Well, really, it doesn't, that's just a label. You can strip the labels off, because I really believe no matter what's going on, it's all about success. But I'll give you a definition that I really like. It was by Earl Nightingale. And he said, success is the progressive realization of a predetermined goal. Your goal, not your goals are for you, Zach's for him, me for me. It's your goal. It's not about what you can accumulate. Quick story, they asked Nelson Rockefeller, or John D. Rockefeller in the 30s of the Rockefeller oil dynasty, how much is enough money? And he went, oh, just a little more.
Right. Yeah.
So we get the more-itis, and it's like, whoa, it's like that FOMO, fear of missing out on success. It's just how you see it.
Yeah, I agree. It's something I've really thought about a lot lately, because I think everybody wants to be successful, and I think that society definitely puts labels on things. Mm-hmm. And again, you go with social media, we live in a world where we have more access to information about other people than we've ever had in history. I know typically what my friends are eating for dinner, where they're at, what time they're doing laundry. I mean, they post everything, some of these people. And so you kind of just know everything about everybody. And so this idea of really comparing yourselves, there's actually a proverb that says, comparing yourselves amongst yourselves, you become unwise. And there's no wisdom in comparing yourselves to each other. You have to determine in your own heart and in your own mind what you are, what you're meant to be, and then go for it and attack it with some real enthusiasm. There's
a poem by Max Ehrmann. It's called Desiderata, and desiderata happens to be a Latin phrase meaning things desired. I'm only going to quote the first couple of lines. It said, "Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. Do not compare yourself to others, because you could become vain and bitter." I love that on the comparison side. Yeah, I don't. It could be jealous or envy. Mm-hmm. We just need to stay at home and stay in our own lane and say, God, what do you want me to do?
Right.
What do you want me to do now?
Right. Discovering your purpose.
Absolutely.
Discovering what you're about.
Yeah.
And I think too that sometimes people have probably already discovered it, but they're too afraid to talk about it or go after it because of fear of how it might be perceived, or fear of how other people are going to judge it. A fear about what other people are going to think about it. And that's a very real thing. I just spoke to a young man the other day that has what I thought was a pretty good idea, but most people have told him it's dumb, you need to go a different route, you need to go to college first, and maybe he does, but I thought it was a pretty good idea, but he was almost embarrassed to even tell me about it because he thought I was going to belittle it or make fun of it. And I'm always trying to be a supporter of someone that has an idea that they're excited about and enthusiastic about, but it's a very real thing. I mean, people, if you're listening today, and we've talked about this many times on the podcast, if you're listening today and you have an idea, you have a goal, you have something that you feel like defines you, you have a vision, something that you want to go after, but you're afraid of what people might say. Number one, don't worry about that. But number two, be enthusiastic about it. One thing that will convince people is when you show enthusiasm about it. If you talk about it like it's the greatest idea you've ever had, then people will start to believe. And even the ones that won't believe, the only one that can prove them wrong is you. So I just say go after it.
Absolutely. I've got a book title. As you can tell, I do a lot of reading. Terry Whitaker wrote a book called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. Now, I hope you like me, but if you don't, it's okay. So we've got to get to a point where it's not other people's opinions. They're not going to pay my bills. They're not going to do these things for me. They're not going to die for me.
Right.
And one of the things that we really, really don't want to do, Tony, is die with the music still within us.
Right.
And so we've got to retrain ourselves, our thinking about what is it that I really, really want to do. You know, you've heard where people get a medical diagnosis of cancer or something, and it turns their life around because now, all of a sudden, they've had a wake-up call. But we can have a wake-up call right now. And we don't have to go out and ask the world, do I want to do this? Earlier I read that quote
Ask
about
permission.
get yourself turned on to something and go do that. In the movie The Peaceful Warrior, Socrates, the spiritual teacher, talks to Dan, the student. He says, stop looking outside for answers and go within.
Right.
Go within.
Right.
That's where the answers are at. But you've got to quiet your mind so that soft, still voice called God or Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, can come to you and then act on that. There's always going to be, you don't want everybody to like your ideas. It's not their idea.
Right. They don't have to. Right.
No, they don't.
I like that.
They don't have to.
Yeah.
And by the way, if they don't like it, it's probably a good idea. They're just ticked off that they didn't think of it.
Think of it first. There's probably a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me think, Chuck, you are at an age, not to be offensive, but you're at an age where many people are retiring or already retired. And yet, here you are saying, I'm not going to just continue to do my business, but I'm going to tackle it with a whole nother level of, enthusiasm and go at it. You're hiring our company to kind of help almost rebrand yourself.
Yeah.
So how do you find the energy and the gusto to go after it? I won't tell anyone your age. You can tell them if you
Well,
want.
I do. I want to do that because I want people, if you will, my age. I'm 70 years old. I call it the 7.0 version. I'll be 71 in December, so it'll be 7.1, and we're just going to ratchet it up. And I've declared another 35.
You don't look a day over 55, by the way.
Okay, I've declared another 35 years because 70 years is 2 35s. I got another 35. So this is legacy for me. It's to take everything that I've experienced and bring it and take it out into the world and just awaken people. I mean, anybody can do what I do, but you've got to learn. You've got to be positive. I've got a book here that says you can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. Stop your negative thinking, turn it into positive, and be optimistic. You know you've got a bright future. Look at your life and see where you've already been successful. Look at the successes. Sit down and write them down and see the magnificence in your life already. But let me give this quote that I got from Norman Vincent Peale. I think it's so appropriate for the tag along to what the question here.
Sure.
And enthusiasm equals love. And here's what Norman Vincent Peale said in the book, Enthusiasm Makes the Difference. And how does one have enthusiasm in life? Actually, it's as simple as this. Cultivate the ability to love living, love people, love the sky under which you live, love beauty, love God. The person who loves becomes enthusiastic, filled with the sparkle and joy of life. And then he or she goes on to fill it full of meaning. And if you're not enthusiastic, begin to cultivate the love of living. Ladies and gentlemen, love your life.
Good stuff. I don't know there's much more that we can add to that, but I guess I'm going to ask you one last question here.
All right, go ahead.
And see what we come up with. But what would be, if you could give one piece of advice, what's the best piece of advice you would give to someone that is just really struggling to find anything to have enthusiasm about?
I would say this, that understand that your uniqueness, you're different than anybody else, and you must find what that is. Use other people, ask other people what they like about you, what you're good at, and follow that out. Be you. And, I know it sounds somewhat trite, but be you. Learn to say no when no is needed. But look for the yeses in life and look for the open doors. There are an enormous number of people that are just waiting to help you, but they don't know what help you need. So always remember that. Remember, when you think you've when you think maybe you've at the end of your rope and you've thought about everything, remember there's another thought just waiting to come on out and say, hey, let's go do this. So it's just your uniqueness, Tony. It's just what it is. I used to compare myself to Dennis Whaley, Les Brown, and some of the people that are really, they're famous. Mm-hmm. And then one day I realized that that's not my gig. I'm me.
Right.
Whether I'm famous or not.
Chuck Dodge you can be.
Yeah, whether I'm famous or not, it's not the issue. It's how many people can I help.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way of looking at it. Everyone's so off on the idea of being an individual.
Yeah.
We don't want to be. You don't have to be like everybody else. You're not like everybody else. You were created unique and individually. So, Chuck, I want to say thank you for being on the show today. If you are looking to hire somebody to inspire your staff, to inspire your management team, to inspire your church group,
yes.
to inspire a meeting, an association, whatever. You need someone to just inject a little bit of life into the organization. I highly recommend hiring Chuck Dodge, Mr. Enthusiasm. Chuck, tell our audience how they can get a hold of you.
Okay, I'll certainly do that, but what I want to also do today is I want to plug AZ Business Solutions because Zach and Jordan helped me with my videos earlier, and Tony, it's just, so consider them for helping you do the same. But you can go to my website, chuckdodge.com, or I'm old school, so you can just dial me up on the phone. It's 248-459-8794. That's 248-459-8794, and I'd love to talk with you about how we can inspire the people around you and in your organization.
Chuck, from my opinion, is the real deal. And so, who's going to give you their direct phone number? He will help you, and he can help inject some life into whatever you got going on. And so, again, Chuck, thank you for being here. You heard it here today. Enthusiasm is the key. Attack life with some enthusiasm. Henry Ford used to say, you can do anything if you have a little enthusiasm. Of course, Henry Ford had the idea of this assembly line and having a car that was affordable for every American, and got mocked and laughed at, but he did okay for himself. And so you don't have to have everybody on board, just have a little of enthusiasm. I think enthusiasm is such an undervalued quality today. You don't hear enough about it, but who doesn't like to be around an enthusiastic person? Who doesn't enjoy being in the company of someone that's positive and happy? I tell you, there's enough people out there that are negative, that always have something bad to say about themselves or about somebody else. And I like to be and surround myself with positivity, enthusiasm. There's enough negativity in the world. So choose to stand out today by being enthusiastic. Be grateful. Show some gratitude. And if you have that, that's going to make you unique and stand out all by itself. That's all for our show today. Thank you for joining us. As I always say, my mother used to tell me, you can't and never could until you tried. So go out there and try something great, and don't take the easy way out, my friends. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, if you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe for more content.